My name is Matt Tuttleby. I'm with Bundoran Bible Reflections, and today's topic is searching for significance. There are few feelings better than coming out of the Eclipse cinema after a Marvel movie. For about 5 energized minutes, I feel invincible. I'm ducking behind cars ready to pounce on the enemy in surprise attack somersault sequences, or I stand confidently to take on the forces of the universe, or I can even pretend to catch bullets in my teeth. It's a magical delusion until your family reminds you of your obvious frailties and weaknesses. Purposeless often erodes our confidence, doesn't it? And I don't know about you, but as a man in this crisis, I have an inbuilt desire to do something, anything. I'm like many of you, a non-essential worker, unable or unqualified to work on the front line of attack against this pandemic. Most people across our nation have been told that the most heroic thing they can do is to stay at home, along with the relevant health guidelines. For some, this may be their first experience of temporary unemployment, being laid off, being surplus to requirements in a time of national emergency. It's not great for the ego, is it? The most challenging times in the century, and all we can do is sit on the couch. And some are even struggling to do that. You see, this utter helplessness for many can be very destructive for our mental health. Current life can seem purposeless. How do we guard against unhealthy habits such as late night binge watching, or social media overload, or addictions, or negative perceptions of ourselves? Cabin fever can lead to restlessness and impatience even to those we live with. As a friend of mine in Limerick claims, the self-help movement encourages us to look for the hero within ourselves, yet all he finds is a villain. Perhaps these pressured times brings out the worst in us as well as the best of us. And perhaps it's a gift to awaken such deep questions. How do we protect our well-being? Where can we find significance? I don't know if you've ever felt lost. Might I suggest that building a sense of well-being on what we do is shaky ground. Often it's the first question we ask, isn't it? What do you do? As if that validates us. Yet there is far more to humanity than what we do, our occupation. I remember when we moved as a family from a busy life in Tipperary to beautiful Donegal. To be honest, I was lost for a while. It was deeply humbling, as all the busyness was exchanged for building a new life from scratch. All the personal connections made in Tipperary were geographically severed, and a sense of loneliness threatened to engulf. I was forced to ask all those soul-searching questions. Who was I? What is my purpose? Do I have something? Do I have to do something to feel valuable? I would say it was painfully humbling. Painful because I want to be that superhero. Yet I became comfortable with being insignificant, because in the cold light of day, in a big universe, I am insignificant. Bear with me as we sort of try and tease out how to find our place in this world. I've found the opening 4 words of the scriptures beautiful and affirming in the same way, and it says this: in the beginning God. And as I stand in the middle of time, on a forgotten county, as Donegal is often called, on a small island, and stretch my eyes back to the beginning, as far as I can see from here, which probably is very limited, my existence pales into unimportance before this awesome creator. I look up to the mystery that is God the Supreme, and I'm simultaneously dwarfed by his greatness, and yet I'm drawn to him like a magnet. One of my favourite poems is Psalm 8, where these beautiful words are penned. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them. You see, that Supreme One, whose glory is set above the heavens, who is the foundation of all things, gave us the responsibility to rule the earth, to fill it and to thrive. And here he is in the psalm reminding us that God is thinking of us, man. I love nothing more, just as the backdrop suggests, of standing on the ocean shore, looking out to sea and upwards, speaking to that same wonderful God, pouring out my heart to him because he cares and he listens and he's mindful of me. And the same is true for you. Verse 5 says this: You have made mankind a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. See, God has filled mankind with dignity by being made in his likeness. This is the key to where to find significance, I believe, rather than searching deep inside ourselves. Here the writer is exclaiming that God has endowed us with significance derived from him. We will never find a settled place in this world until we acknowledge that God is at the center of it. And yet we often place ourselves at the center, don't we? This same God who values us demonstrated that by sending Jesus to enter this world as one of us. He lived through similar routines and stresses, suffered and died in our place, rising again to the throne of heaven. If such drastic committed love doesn't spell you are special to God, I'm not sure what does. See, this is an invitation by God to find our place in God's world, as a person reclaimed to God, as a person restored as an heir. See, the words to be crowned come from the woven flowered wreaths that were worn by those who were consecrated to God, such as priests and others. The wreath depicted God's royalty. You see, when we bow our hearts to God's greatness, when we accept his gift of life, when we ask Jesus the King to rule our hearts, we become heirs to the throne. It's only as his authority is recognized that he will set us free. There is freedom in accepting that we are designed to be dependent beings. The poem begins and ends like two bookends with these beautiful words, Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. There is astonishing significance from knowing the most significant being in the universe. See, pretending to be a superhero is exhausting. We need to allow ourselves to be loved by the significant one. God accepts us when we come in weakness. Isn't that a relief? In God's presence, boasting is obliterated, sins are forgiven, and there is freedom in Jesus Christ. As you look at the ocean behind me, may you seek Jesus and find the ultimate source of contentment and significance.